Hey guys, Sebastian Cordoba, Mr. Clear to Close. Thank you so much for tuning in this week again for another very special episode of Real Estate Talk Show with Sebastian Cordoba, Home Buying 101. I am very excited about my next guest, guys. I have real estate agent Luis Torres from RE/MAX.
Thank you, Sebastian, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, you're very welcome, Luis. No, thank you so much for coming on, man, and I appreciate it. Tell me, we're coming to the end of the year. How's everything coming along? How do you see this whole real estate market kind of coming to an end this year?
It's festive. Low inventory. People are kind of probably waiting into the beginning of the year before they put the houses on the market. So inventory is low, but buyer demand is still high, even though the interest rates have been fluctuating up and down. What are you seeing on your side?
Well, that's a very good point, Luis. So what we're seeing right now is, yes, the interest rates right now are a lot higher than what they were even a year ago, right? So what does that mean? A lot of people aren't able to qualify or have minimized their purchasing power, right? So how do we, or any bank in general, qualify somebody, aside from their credit score, their employment history, but it's their debt to income ratio, right? It's how much can you afford per month in relation to your total monthly income, right? So there's certain numbers and costs in there that get to your monthly mortgage payment, including your interest rate. So yes, a high interest rate does increase your monthly payment, bringing down your purchasing power. So what have I been seeing? Yes, there has been a little bit of an increase in the amount of purchasing power, but there's still a lot of people active out there applying, getting pre-approved. Why? Because what we always say is, if you're in the market to buy a property, the right time is always now. Right, especially if you're renting, and you can tell me. I mean, how have you seen the rent prices, in this market? I mean, have they gone down at all, or how do you see those?
No, prices have skyrocketed. The last 4 or 5 years, the prices are just continue to go up. It's crazy.
Right, and then one thing that somebody has to keep in consideration is, the interest rates are very important, but you can always refinance in the future depending on how the market goes. It's just the way the interest rates tend to go according to the economy, but the rental rates just continue to go up. I mean, it's something that is 100% interest. A lot of people are focused on the 6% or whatever rate is in the market at this time, but always remember, guys, that you guys are paying 100% interest when you're renting. So it's always beneficial for you to be able to get into the property, put a little bit of down payment, and get into that property, guys, right? So, Luis, you deal with people every day. You, as a general real estate agent, let's say you have a client come to you and you say, hey, Luis Torres or Mr. Realtor, I want to buy a home. What's my first step? What do I do?
Well, my first step is I ask them to see if they're pre-qualified.
Okay.
If they're pre-qualified, then, we can start looking. I'll know exactly what they qualify for and what towns they're looking for, what their needs are, whether it's a single family, multifamily, stuff like that. If they're not qualified, then I got to send them to a mortgage expert. And what do you look for when they come to you?
And Luis, thank you so much for the question. So what you're saying is somebody wants to buy a home. They go to an open house. They want to make an offer because they fell in love with the property, but they're not pre-approved, right? So the first step is to speak with a lender. First step is to somebody reach out to your local lender and get an understanding, first, if you qualify, and second, up to how much, right? So yes, what do we look at to determine if somebody is not only pre-qualified, Luis? What we do is we pre-approve somebody. And a lot of the qualified lenders, especially in your local community, it's about getting documentation. It's actually looking at the credit score, right? Which there's a certain minimum amount that you do need to be above. Employment history. Any lender is always going to look at a 2-year job history looking back, okay? We're not so much concerned of how many jobs you've had in the past 2 years. You can have 2, 3, or 4. It just means more paperwork that I have to go chase, right? But the most important piece is that there's no lapse in time where you did not work, right? Because then we have to document it, okay? Aside from the employment history, what we're looking for is your income, like we were talking earlier, your debt to income. And that's where the lender's job is to try to extract as much income that you generate per month to then determine what's the maximum amount of mortgage payment you can afford per month, right? Once we determine all that, then we say, well, Luis, your client's maximum amount that they qualify for is X amount. The minimum down payment, depending on which loan program that they qualify for, and is their best option to get into that home, is this amount, right? So All those different factors is what we decide, or we determine how much, if first they qualify, second, how much they qualify up to. Once you are pre-approved, my people, then you're out shopping. Then you're having fun. Now you know that that pre-approval is your golden ticket to go out, look for a realtor, or work with a realtor to start searching for that perfect home. Like you said, Luis, so when somebody goes to you and they say, Luis, I want to buy a property, what's the most important piece that you want to understand what they're looking for, right, as a realtor?
I want to make sure that they're pre-approved, what towns they're looking for, square footage, type of home, whether they're looking for a single family, two family, three family, they're looking for a condo. Some people prefer condos, because they don't have to cut the grass or, shovel the driveway. But those are the important things right there.
Okay.
Yep.
So you determine what their wants and their needs are.
Correct.
And then once you determine that, then you put them into, and this is a general real estate agent, what they do is they put, their client into a system
Yeah.
that sends them what, listings every day, or how does it work?
Yeah, it sends them, well, every 15 seconds or every, 15 minutes. Anytime there's a new property that comes on the market, a price change, back on the market because somebody withdrew their offer or something, you get a message saying, hey, this property is available. You can take a look at it online, and if it's interested, then you contact your agent and say, hey, can you set up an appointment? I want to go see this property. And then you go and take a look at it. If you like it, you submit an offer and they accept it. That's awesome. Then, once you have an accepted offer, you can schedule a home inspection.
Wow, and that's beautiful. So what you're saying is somebody's already determined, what they want, what they need in a property. And, one piece of tip that I want to make sure somebody, everybody who's watching understands is, as a lender, any bank, our job is, yes, to give you the maximum amount that you qualify for. But what I always ask in my seminars is, who decides what your monthly payment is going to be? Who decides what your monthly payment is going to be? Is it you or is it the bank? The banks always will tell you what the maximum amount that you qualify for, but you have to be the person who ultimately decides how much you want to pay per month. How much can you afford per month in your monthly payment? So that's why it's very important to work with professionals who understand it's not so much about the purchase price, but it's about the monthly affordability, right? So they get into a property, they make an offer, they get that offer accepted. I mean, Luis, how much time is going on during this process? I mean, it doesn't take long. I mean, this isn't something one day to the next, right?
Well, it depends on the inventory. It could take, you could find your dream house in a week, or it could take 3 months.
Okay.
So the thing is not to get discouraged,
Yes, very important.
especially with the low inventory.
Yes, yep. And that's huge. So now you have the accepted offer because you haven't been discouraged, right? You've been
Right.
actively keeping up with your credit, with your employment, with your hours, your savings, please. That's very
Yeah.
important. You make the offer, you win it, you get the inspection. Now tell me, is it an inspection required or is it recommended? Should I even get an inspection, me as a home buyer?
Oh,
Luis?
100% recommended.
Why? I mean,
The home inspections will tell you everything that's good and bad about the property. They will check out the roof, insulation, foundation, electrical, plumbing, heating systems,
okay.
kitchens, bathrooms, and that way you can make an informed decision on whether you're going forward or you're withdrawing from the property.
Okay. So let's say, Luis, I get my report. I say, oh, Luis, man, there's a couple things here that need to be fixed. I don't know if I want to buy this house. What can I do, Luis?
Well, with the home inspection, yeah, you can definitely go back to the seller or the seller's agent and say, hey, my client wants these items repaired or wants a credit. You give them a dollar amount which you're willing to accept. And then the listing agent can come back and say, oh, the seller said he's not fixing anything, or he's willing to give you the credit or whatever to make this happen. So home inspection is very important on that aspect. Make sure that you get one. I recommend that you get one.
Awesome.
I know a lot of people were waiving them in the last year and a half, but you got to protect yourself because, everything costs money.
Yes, yes, and that's the best way to look at it. I mean, it's better to spend a few hundred and protect yourself from having to spend several thousands.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, because the roof ain't cheap, you know. The roof can cost you anywhere from 7 to 15 grand, depending on how big the roof is and what kind of type of pitches it has. Heating systems are not cheap, you know,
Yeah.
and they usually break the day after you buy it.
And actually, speaking about heating systems, now that we see all this energy going up, do you know anything about solar panels? Do you recommend people? I mean, do you see when you're trying to sell a property, how does it? I mean, how does it work when you have a solar panel on top of your home?
That's funny because some people love it and some people don't like it.
Okay.
So I've seen buyers who don't want solar panels, and I want some who are fine with it. You know, a lot of those contracts are assumed by the buyer, so
Okay.
that could affect you also your debt to income ratio.
Mm-hmm.
If the payment is a couple $100s a month, you got to take that into account.
Yeah. That's huge. So what you're saying is a really good real estate agent does his due diligence, right? They're looking at the overall cost of the property. If it has solar panels and expect an extra cost, yes, to save you in the long run, because it does. I mean, the solar panels, are great. But most important piece of it is know what the true cost of that property is up front to make sure that there's no surprises halfway through the transaction, right?
Right. Yeah, nothing worse than having something like that pop up and knocks you out of being able to be approved.
Right. Yeah. No, and we're right there. So for example, okay, very good. We get it going, and again, most important piece throughout everything, guys, is the right time to buy is now, right? But making sure your credit, your employment, the income, your savings are all going smoothly, just like when we started. It's going through the end of the transaction. Is now we get to the point of the appraisal.
Yeah. And don't open up any new accounts.
Oh, please don't open any new accounts. Please don't go to Bob's Furniture and open up a whole new credit card and fill up that room with a dining room
I've
set
had
and a
plenty of
couch.
clients have said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go buy furniture." It's like, close first, and then you can go get your furniture.
And that's a good point. So you know what happens is on the back room of mortgages is, in general, there's always a shield, a credit shield that's being overlooked on your credit. So when you pull your credit for a new line of credit, if you go to Bob's Furniture, Jordan's Furniture, sorry to name those names, but any furniture store in general, right? And you pull your credit and you open up a new line of credit, the first thing that I get notification as your loan officer or any loan officer is, hey, check your client's credit. There's a notification in there because something has changed. A new credit pull, a new line.
Yeah.
And that can put you out of the game.
Oh yeah.
You can put you out of the game. I mean, you get a new loan that you're adding now a new debt, because what we're talking about is
Yes.
debt to income ratio.
Right.
You're adding a new debt that I didn't consider or any bank didn't consider from the beginning. Yeah, it's going to put you out of being able to close that in that property, Luis.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've seen it happen. So
Great tip.
as everybody knows, everybody's always mentioning it to the buyers. Don't open up any line of credits or make any large deposits, cash deposits.
Please, yes, that's a whole nother ordeal. Yes. So cash deposits is also something that a bank does not like, right? So the idea is for you to have the money already matured in your bank account for the past 2 months, right? So the idea is once we get that appraisal ordered, right, then it can take maybe a couple weeks.
Right.
At that same time as we're asking for all these documents, we're making sure all that we just mentioned is up to date. What are you doing during this time, Luis? I mean, okay, we're focused on the appraisal, but you want to make sure that this client is okay, right? I mean, you're speaking with them every day as a real estate agent, right?
Yeah, I mean,
The first time jitters, first time home jitters, I mean, that's normal, right?
Right. Yeah, people get nervous, get frustrated because their lender is asking them for paperwork over and over again, bank statements, pay stubs, stuff like that. But with the appraisal, if the appraisal comes in low, less than what you're buying the property for, then the seller has an option whether they want to reduce the price to that amount, or if they want to stick to their guns, then, if they stick to their guns, there's no way you can buy it unless you bring out of pocket the difference between the appraised value and the purchase price. If it's an FHA loan, that appraisal rise with the house for 6 months.
Okay.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about FHA?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically what you're saying is if that property already has an appraisal that was run through FHA, that value of the property is good for 6 months. So no matter whichever FHA buyer comes in the future to purchase that property, they're going to get that same valued amount with the same repairs needed. So meaning that seller has to get that fixed within that 6-month period if they want to sell to an FHA buyer. Correct. Or they can then go to a conventional buyer.
Exactly.
Right. So yes, very tricky, and that's a very good point, Luis. Because yes, the next piece is the appraisal comes in. You can negotiate a little bit. You can see if you can get something fixed or get something back, or then you kind of unfortunately have to back out if the seller's not willing to play ball.
Right. Yeah, and if that happens, you get your deposit back from the purchase and sale.
And what kind of
And the
deposits are we
offers.
talking about? Yes, because how many deposits are there usually, or tell me about that?
Well, you do a deposit with the offer.
Okay. How much typically does it matter, or what?
Usually 1,000 and up, depending on how much you're putting down. The stronger the offer, the more down payment that you put on.
Okay.
With the purchase and sale, which is a second contract that you will be signing, it gets reviewed by the attorneys. And once it's ready, the buyer signs the purchase and sale and gives us a second deposit. So if the appraisal goes bad and you need to back out, you'll get those two deposits back. The only money that you will lose will be the offer,
The inspection.
the inspection and the appraisal.
Yes.
It could be $1,000 that you lose right there.
Yep.
But, if the seller's being stubborn and doesn't want to reduce the price because the value's not there, and that's dictated by the
Yep.
by the market,
Yep. Yep.
you know.
And that's a very good point, Luis, because there's a lot of moving pieces when you're buying a home, right? It's not only your financing, it's not only your piece of the pie, but it's also the seller piece, right?
Right.
And the collateral, which is the property that you're buying, the subject property. So I mean, I've had cases where I've been able to get to the closing, and for some reason the seller backed out because for a medical reason or for any reason they backed out. So when somebody for example, we have a lot of clients or anybody out there who's renting. Obviously they have to tell their landlord, "Hey, or their landlord tells them, "Hey, you got to renew your contract, or you got to move out," right?
Right.
And so they're expected to move out on a certain date. What's a good advice that you would tell somebody? Is, hey, tell your landlord, "Hey, I'm in the middle of buying a home. Buy me some time." How should you approach your landlord when you're in the middle of buying a home and you don't know what date you're going to be able to close?
Yeah, don't give a notice that you'll be out by a certain date because the landlord's going to come in there and if it can have somebody ready to move in. And if something happens on the purchase, you're really in trouble. So my recommendation is once you close, you can give your 30-day notice. That
Yeah.
way it gives you plenty of time. If you want to do painting in the house, you can do any upgrades that you want to do to the house before you have to be out of your apartment. But always, don't try to do it back to back because it's not going to work.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, one thing, too, is what we do a lot in any good lender or any good team that you guys work with is they can help you communicate and talk to your landlord and say, "Hey, listen, we're in the middle of buying something. We don't know exactly what the date is, but, everything is okay. Just give
Right.
us more time, maybe." It's all about communication in what we do, right? And having a good support and a good team, right?
Well, and you try to close towards the end of the month. That way you can close, you can give your landlord a 30-day notice on the first. You can use your last month's deposit. Or even if you have to pay that month's rent, you pay that month's rent, but you have enough time to move out. You're not stressed about packing and moving everything out, landlord pushing you out. So yeah, you gotta really work with your real estate agent and your lender to make sure, and don't jump the gun.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So, and then now you're thinking, okay, I just paid for this month's rent, right? I'm going to buy a home and I'm closing next month. Now I have to pay my mortgage. No, guys. So the way it works, and it's kind of a nice little insight for everybody is, let's say if you were to close on the 15th of December, this month,
Right.
your first monthly mortgage payment would not be the 1st of January. It would be the 1st of February.
Right.
So it gives you a little bit of time, a little bit of cushion, because with mortgages, right, you're always paying
1 month
one
back.
month behind, right? Where when you're renting, you're always paying 1 month ahead. So my point is, yes, if you have to pay that month's rent, yes, pay it. But remember, you still have a little bit of a cushion to be able to make up for when you have to pay that first monthly mortgage payment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about awareness.
Education is knowing. It's basically having everything up front. So that's why, I love working with you, Lise. That's why I want to have you here, because you exemplify what all good real estate agents are able to help their clients with. So now they're getting to their closing date. Now everybody's excited. I've given their clear to close. Their commitment date is all cleared. What do they do before they get to closing? I mean, are they ready to go to the closing table, sign, pop a bottle? What do they have to do?
No, you got to do a final walkthrough.
A final walkthrough. What is a final walkthrough?
you go 48 hours to 24 hours before the closing, and you make sure that the property is in the same condition that you saw it in. No holes on the walls, no trash, furniture left behind. Any repairs that you had requested are completed, and everything is in working order. You just want to make sure there's no surprises.
Okay, so if you go in there and you see, Auntie Karen on the couch, I mean, what?
Then you reach out to your attorney and your realtor, and they go and say, hey, what's going on?
Okay. So before you sign, you're protected because
Oh,
they
yeah.
have to move out.
Yeah, because once you sign, then it's a done deal.
It's a done deal, guys. So make sure you get Auntie out of there before you sign that contract.
If not, you're stuck with her. She's a squatter.
You guys, so getting to the end of this transaction is very exciting, right? So I mean, we've done it all. You guys have gone from the beginning where you're pre-approved. You're trying to first figure out if you qualify.
Right.
Second, up to how much. Then you're shopping. Then you're inspecting the property. You're kind of negotiating a little bit. You're in the midst of it where I'm asking you for more and more documents.
Right.
It's getting really, stressed out. We're getting towards the end. We get the clear to close, which is celebration time. Then we get the final walkthrough to make sure that everything that was promised from when you signed that contract is ready to be delivered, right? Then everything is signed. Everything is good, Luis.
Right.
Closing date is coming up to, it's coming up. Attorney tells you, hey, you got to be at the office at 9 in the morning because we're signing documents. I mean, how good of a feeling? Tell me a little bit of experience, all the hard work and all the effort that a real estate agent does to get
Oh,
there.
it's awesome. I mean, especially when you have a first-time buyer who never thought they would get to that point, and to see their happiness and their tears, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling, guys. And if you have the opportunity, remember, right now is always the best time. We don't know how much harder it can be for somebody to buy and qualify. So take advantage of that little bit of an opportunity, that window of opportunity that you have if you can buy. So Luis, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time, your passion, everything that you've been able to give back to the community. Is there anything you kind of want to leave us with? How can people get a hold of you, please?
Yeah, Luis Torres, Remax Professional Associates. I do mostly all of Massachusetts, and I do all types of, whether it's investors, first-time buyers, flippers. I'm here to help. 978-660-3464. Thank you.
Luis, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out. And guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We look forward to bringing you more valuable information every week. And you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Sebastian Cordoba, Mr. Clear to Close.